What's up, guys? It's Atomic, and today I thought I would share something a little different with you guys, and that is my ill-fated attempt to make a Jason tutorial for Friday the 13th, the game. I'm going to try to cut down this introduction as much as I can, but just to give you a little background, if some of you that have been here for a while, you may remember I said, oh, I want to make a Jason tutorial. And this was way back in the day. This was back in April. Now, forget about why I was doing this, nearly a year after the game came out, all that nonsense. The bottom line is I wanted to do it. I thought I would enjoy doing it. And for the most part, I did, but it was just taking way too long. You see, the thing is, there are plenty of Jason strategies out there, Jason tips and tricks, Jason tutorials even. The only problem is, they're not really geared towards the newer player. Most of them that I've seen, they're pretty good. But I wanted to make something that was geared towards a new player because I've been playing the game, and there's just so many Jasons. You know who I'm talking about. They come lumbering out of the woods. They don't even use their morph. They're just swinging their axe around like a madman. That's who I wanted to help. That's why I wanted to do this tutorial. So again, this was back in April. There were still plenty of new players playing, so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it. The only thing is, I wanted to make it as comprehensive as possible. Like I said, it was geared towards the newer player. So as I look back now, from what I remember, what I wanted to do, part one was going to be, just a basic introduction. Part two was going to be just going over the controls. And then part three, which is what I'm going to show you guys, was going over different sounds and symbols you should be aware of. Part 4, I was going to cover traps, throwing knives. Part 5, I was going to go over all the maps, where things spawn in the game, that kind of stuff. And finally, with Part 6, I was going to start getting into Jason's abilities. And from there on, just cover different things. The combat fighting, avoiding being killed as Jason, stopping the car, stopping the boat, all that stuff. So anyway, that was back in April. Fast forward, I'm putting it together, things are looking good, I'm having a good time. Then the update dropped, the update that brought the single player challenges to the game. And it came out a little quicker than I thought it would. So I'm like, oh, well, I actually want to play the game. I don't want to, sit here and just watch the whole time. I'm not, what am I making this video for? I want to play the game and enjoy it. So that's what I did. I put it on hold. Next thing you know, they announce no more future content. And with that, all the interest in the game kind of died out. And I just said, you know what? I'm not getting anything out of it. It's taking way too long. I'm being obsessive about this, trying to include everything. The heck with it. So that's where it is now. Now, even though the game is coming out on PlayStation Plus in a couple of days, free for PlayStation Plus users, you would think, well, that could bring some new players in. Maybe I should do it. No, it's going to take way too long, and it's just not worth the effort. But anyway, I put together bits and pieces. Like I said, I had different sections planned out with the traps, the maps, all this kind of stuff. But it was just bits and pieces. I never fully put it together. The only part that I did finish is what I'm about to show you. Now, this was going to be part 3, entitled Symbols and Sounds. And I figure I'll just show it to you guys. That way, all the work that I put into it is not totally useless. I didn't completely waste my time. You guys can see it. Let me know what you think. Should I have continued? I'm not going to now. But just let me know what you think, and you can see how it was going to be structured. And I should warn you, remember, this was geared towards a newer player. So, a lot of, and again, this was early on, it would be part 3 of the tutorial. So it's basic information. You guys might roll your eyes a few times, but again, it was geared towards that newer player, the guy who just doesn't really seem to know what he's doing. He starts playing as Jason, he's completely overwhelmed. Anyway, take a look, guys. Let me know what you think, and I will see you all in the next video. What's up, guys? It's Atomic, and welcome back. This is part 3 of my Jason tutorial for Friday the 13th, the game, entitled Symbols and Sounds. Before we can even get into a match, you need to be familiar with various symbols that are going to be on your map. You also need to be familiar with some distinct sounds that you're going to be hearing while you play. That's what we're going to be covering here. Now, we're going to tackle symbols first. For this example, I have pulled up the Higgins Haven map. These symbols always stay the same no matter what map you're on. Also note, I am using the bots to conduct this little example, and I know for a fact I'm going to have to do some edits. When I do, you'll be able to tell because these symbols will jump around the map a little bit. Don't worry about that for now. For the purposes of this video, I just want you to be familiar with what the symbols are and what they represent. Now, the first one we're going to tackle is yourself, the man, Jason Voorhees. You will always be represented on the map by a yellow arrow. And whatever direction you're facing, that's where the arrow is facing. You can pull up your map at any time by hitting the touchpad, and you're always going to see your map at the beginning of the match because you're going to be morphing. Just know that one advantage you have over counselors is that when you pull up your map, you can still move around. Counselors can't. So be aware of that fact. Now let's get on to some symbols, specifically objective symbols. What are the counselors going after? I have said it before, I will say it again. The most important objective for counselors is the phone. It allows every single one of them to escape. So you need to know where the phone is. In this instance, it's right here. It's represented by a white square with a little telephone on it. That means the phone is in this cabin. A fuse box is attached to this cabin. Counselors have to repair it. They can go inside and call the police. So know where the phone is at all times. Counselors won't know where it is. On a counselor map, they have no idea where the phone is. They have to see it in person. So be aware of what this symbol is and what it represents. Another objective symbol you need to know about is the escape vehicles. Escape vehicles will always be orange squares. Now again, because I'm using bots, there are 2 cars on this map. An orange square with a little car inside. You don't know if this is a 4-seater or this is a 4-seater, but you know this symbol represents the cars. Now there's always 2 escape vehicles on the map, so if there was not 2 cars, this car, let's say, wouldn't be here, it would be a boat. Boats are always near the shoreline. There's specific points in the map where they are. I'll be talking about that in part 5. But the boat symbol, again, it's orange. It looks just like this. Here is where a boat can escape from. It will look just like this, except it will be orange. And it's always going to be near the shoreline. Okay, those are the most important symbols to know, but we should cover some secondary symbols. The first being your spawn point, your shack. It is always in one of 2 set locations. Here on the Higgins Havens map, it's always going to be here or here. In this instance, it's over here. But no, okay, this is where I spawn. I'm going to be talking about this in part 5 and then in the section on killing Jason. But just be aware of what this represents. You've also noticed these little lightning bolts. These represent power generators. You can go up to one of them, knock it out. It disables electricity to certain parts of the camp. Not essential to know about, but again, very helpful, and I want you guys to know what every symbol represents. Everything else is pretty basic. Obviously, we have cabins. Some are big, some are small. You can't tell exactly by your map. You have to go visit in person, but you'll be familiar soon enough where big houses are, where small houses are. Again, there are bigger houses on every map. They're just bigger houses, plain and simple. You've also noticed these little campfires. Again, not much to know about here. Sometimes counselors can find supplies and equipment there, sometimes weapons. Sometimes at these campsites there are tents that counselors can hide in. Again, not essential, but you should know what every symbol represents. On this map here, we see the little cross with a tombstone. that represents a cemetery. That's only going to appear on certain maps, and again, nothing of note there. And that covers basically every symbol you should know. On some maps, there are specific buildings that have their unique symbols. On Crystal Lake, there is something I call a repair shack. I'll cover that in the section on maps. The only other symbol you need to be aware of is when the police arrive. When the police arrive, they will be at a set escape point. On this map, it's going to be up here or up here. It's represented by an orange square with a little police badge inside. We'll cover that later on when we talk about calling the police. But for right now, just be aware of the main symbols, how counselors can escape. You need to know, okay, this is a car, again, a boat. It would be by the shoreline if there was one on this map. And again, the phone. It sounds simple, but you need to know what these symbols represent, okay? Now I'm going to play some sound bites for you. As I've talked about, in order to escape the map, counselors have to repair certain items. They can repair the fuse box. That enables them to call the police. They can repair the vehicles. That enables them to escape. When they fail, while repairing something, you're going to hear a very distinct sound. You need to be familiar with these sounds. And I have to stress this point. You're only going to hear this sound when they fail. Okay, when a counselor approaches something to repair it, they have to perform a little skill check, a little quick time event, call it what you will. Little prompts will appear on screen. They have to hit the correct button. When they fail, that is when you're going to hear these sounds, okay? I don't want some of you guys coming out of this video thinking, well, how did they get the car started? I didn't hear the sounds that guy was talking about. Again, you're only going to hear this if they make a mistake while repairing something. But a lot of times people do make mistakes, and you have to be aware of what these sounds represent. Now, the first one I'm going to play for you guys is the phone. You're going to see a little clip of me intentionally failing to repair the phone, and then I'm going to follow that up with a couple clips of me as Jason hearing someone fail the phone. So pay close attention to the little beep beep sound you're about to hear.
You can never die.
Help me.
I know it sounds like I'm beating a dead horse, but I can't stress the importance of the phone enough. Again, it allows every counselor an opportunity to escape. So if you hear someone messing with the phone, you've heard them trying to repair it, and they've messed up, you need to head over there right away and investigate. If, for instance, there was only 2 counselors left alive, okay, maybe it's not that important. But 9 times out of 10, you hear that sound, you need to look on your map, where's the phone, head over there immediately. Now the next clip I'm going to play is that of spilled gasoline. Gasoline is used to repair either a car or a boat. So what you're going to see is, again, me intentionally failing the skill check just to get you familiar with the sound. I'll follow that up again by a couple clips as me playing as Jason, hearing someone spill gasoline. So again, I hope that's pretty self-explanatory. The sound of liquid being spilled. Someone has failed their skill check. They're trying to put fuel in somewhere. The only thing is, you don't know just by hearing that sound where they're trying to put fuel in. If there's two cars on the map, they could be at either one. If there was a car and a boat, you don't know where they are. You just know that someone has failed their skill check. They have messed up while fueling something up. So you're going to have to use some logic. For instance, if this car wasn't here and instead there was a boat here, let's say you've put a trap down here by the car. You haven't heard that go off yet. You know they're fueling up the boat. If there are two cars, let's say you didn't trap either fuel tank. Again, logic has to be used. Let's say you're over here, you're right here, you've just knocked out this power box. You hear fuel being spilled. You can look right here and be able to see, okay, there's no counselors here. That means they're fueling up over here. Same thing if you were over here, look in the direction. As I've mentioned slightly, I'll talk about later, counselors make noise whenever they're doing something. You can tell, at least get a general idea of where they're at. So again, be aware of that sound. Know that someone has messed up. They're fueling something up. But again, logic has to prevail. Your traps are going to help too. We're talking about traps in the next section. But for right now, I just want you guys to be familiar with that sound. Okay, someone has spilled fuel. I need to investigate. Now the next sound I'm going to play is the battery. The battery is only used for fixing the car. Once again, you're going to see me intentionally failing so I can get you familiar with that sound. And then you're going to see me hearing the battery go off.
They deserve to die, Jason. Make them suffer.
I think I did that on record.
So you can call that sound whatever you like. I refer to it as just a little buzzing. But be aware, that's the sound of someone trying to put a battery in a car and they have failed. They've messed up their skill check. They hit the wrong button. Again, you need to know how to respond because if there are two cars on the map, you don't know which one it was. Again, logic has to prevail. Let's say you have put a trap on the battery at this car. You didn't trap this one. You hear the buzz, pull up your map. Your trap over here is intact. They're over here. Let's say your traps have already gone off. Well, if you're in this area and you hear that buzzing, they're probably over here because you're able to look right down here. Okay, no one's in this direction. They're probably up here. Again, just be aware of the sound. That little buzzing means somewhere at one of the cars, they're putting in a battery. You might luck out. Maybe you have a boat on the map. Then you know for sure which car they're at. If you don't know which car, you got to use a little logic. Again, let's say I was way off in this area, I hear that buzzing, I have to pull up my map and know, okay, did my traps go off? Which one is it? I'll talk about it in the trap section, how to tell which trap has gone off. But for right now, we're concentrating on the sounds, specifically the sound of the battery. So just know that's your battery. Someone failed their skill check. Time to investigate. Now, if you have a keen eye, you will have noticed that I have reloaded the map and some symbols shifted around. The phone is up here now along with some power boxes. The question is, do you have a keen ear? Because right now, I'm going to play a little clip of me intentionally failing to repair one of these power generators. And as usual, it'll be followed up by just one clip of me as Jason hearing someone fail to repair a power generator.
don't stop Jason. They deserve to die. Make them suffer like we did.
Now the reason why I played that clip right now, right after the battery sound, is to let you know the sound of someone failing to repair a battery and the sound of someone failing to repair a power generator are pretty similar. You know, maybe the battery is a little louder, maybe it's a little shorter buzz. I have to tell you, after playing the game for so long, I'm still not 100% sure. In the example I showed you where I was Jason, I had to use logic. There was a car down in this area. I was right here killing Kenny. I knew every other counselor was here except one. I knew someone was in this general area. So as I got done finishing Kenny off, I heard the buzz. I knew I was right by the car. I knew no one was there. I knew every counselor was here except one. Someone was up in this general area. So I used my morph to check it out. Sure enough, there they were, repairing. I was able to get them. However, I suggest you guys play it safe. If you're not sure, don't worry about it. I'd rather be safe than sorry. Again, let's say you hear the buzz. Oh, I think it's this power box. I'm going to go check it out. If you're wrong, you could be screwed. It could have been them putting in the battery in this car. That might have been the last thing they needed to get the car ready. If you waste your morph head over here, you're wrong. They've got that car ready. They start it up. They are up and out before you know what hit you. So I suggest playing it safe. You don't have to keep the power off all the time. Use your logic. Don't be too aggressive if you don't have to. Now in this next clip I'm going to play is a sound coming from the boat. We've already talked about the boat needs gas and the propeller. So in this clip I'm going to show you me failing to put the propeller on and then me hearing it as Jason.
That's my Jason.
So as you heard, when someone fails their skill check at the propeller at the boat, it makes a pretty distinct banging sound. You can't miss it, but you need to be aware of it. So many people hear it and they just don't respond. So when you hear that bang sound, you have to pay attention. I'm going to be talking about it quite a bit. When there is a boat on the map, you want to constantly be pulling up your map all the time to see if it's moving. When you hear that bang sound, you need to be extra careful. You really have to be aware of what the situation is. Assume the boat is ready to go and it can be moving at any point. It's a distinct sound, a big loud bang. Know what it is. Now in this final clip, I'm going to play one that you don't want to hear, but you're going to end up hearing. I have heard it plenty of times, and that's the sound of a successful call being made to police. As usual, I'm going to play a clip of me calling the police, and then me as Jason hearing the police be called. And don't be alarmed, I'm about to reload the map again. But again, in this coming sound clip, pay close attention to the radio chatter that you hear.
Jason's killing my friends! Please get out here! No, this is not a prank! Oh my god! Help!
Copy, I'm in road therapy. Air Force 97.
God.
Copy, I'm in road therapy. Air Force 97. Copy, I'm in road therapy. Air Force 97.
Jason. Don't let them.
Air Force 97.
I know it's often been debating, what are the police saying when you successfully call them? I hear it as something to the effect of, copy on the road there, it's 10 Force 97. Doesn't matter what they're saying. All you need to know is that the police have been called. And as you saw, as Jason, it goes by very quickly. When the police are called, the counselors have a little timer that appears on their screen letting them know when they arrive. You as Jason, you don't get that luxury. You don't know when they're coming. The default time is 5 minutes, but sometimes counselors are using perks that can lower that time, and they can show up in under 4 minutes. When the police have been called, it's not panic time yet. I'll talk about that in a future video, but for right now, all you need to be aware of is that sound and, okay, the police have been called, I really need to get to work. And that's all the sounds that I'm going to play for you guys right now. There's others you need to be aware of. The most important one is your traps being set off. I'm going to cover that in the very next video when I talk all about traps. Other sounds, someone entering your shack. As we see, my shack is over here now. I'm going to cover that in part 5 right before I talk about maps. I'll also talk about it when I talk about killing Jason. I'm probably going to save that for the end of this entire series. Other sounds to be aware of, they're not as important. You might hear a counselor screaming off in the distance. Usually that means that they have stepped on their own bear trap. Other distinct sounds, you can hear someone going into a hiding space. If you've spent any time playing against bots, you probably know what these sounds are. The creak of a cabinet door, the little shuffle of going under a bed. Not too important, but again, I'll cover that when I talk about hiding spots. Now there's one other thing that I should show you here, and that's the Tommy Jarvis house. While not necessarily a symbol on the map, something you should be made aware of. Now we'll see how long it takes for me to find it, so I'm going to have to do hopefully just one edit. We'll find out. Alright guys, my first guess was a little off, but I have now successfully found the Tommy Jarvis house. This big radio tower, on every single map, one cabin will have this radio tower attached. Inside of the house with the big radio tower is a CB radio, and this is where counselors will be able to call Tommy Jarvis from. Again, you as Jason, you don't know where this is. It won't appear as any kind of symbol on your map. Actually, on this particular map, Higgins Haven, you can see it in the opening cutscene. On every other map, you have no idea where it is. Now just know that this radio tower is usually attached, not usually, it is. It is attached to the closest power generator. So in this instance, okay, I know this is where they're calling Tommy from. I can pull up my map. Okay, here's the closest power generator. If I disable this power generator, they won't be able to call Tommy. The only problem is, you don't know where this is at the beginning of the match, and usually a counselor will spawn close to a Tommy house. They'll immediately call him, so there's no point, I shouldn't say no point, but by the time you're able to disable the power to the Tommy house, they've already made the call. But again, this isn't a symbol to be aware of, but just something that you guys should be aware of. And that pretty much wraps it up, guys. I know it's tedious, but I want every single player to be made aware of this. The main point that I wanted you guys to take out of this video, know the symbols, know what they represent. It doesn't matter what map it is, these symbols will always stay the same. A car will always look like a car, a boat will always look like a boat, the phone, I'm going to keep stressing it. The phone will always look like that, power generators always look like that. Again, any distinct symbols on a certain map, they're not important, and I'll be covering them in part 5. As far as the sound goes, I know guys, this is easy. We know this. A lot of players don't, okay? Every single clip that I played of me intentionally failing, that was all done in public lobbies. So there are people out there who just have no idea what those sounds represent. So that was the main point of this video. Be aware of those sounds and know how to respond. Thanks for watching, guys. Stick around for part 4. We're going to talk all about the most important tool that you have at your disposal, your traps. Probably talk about throwing knives as well, not as detailed. So part 4 is mainly focused all about traps.